Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us on our webinar today, Energy Efficiencies Without Compromising on Comfort, Health and Wellbeing. Just letting a few more people in, just wait just a little second. My name is Kayleen, I work with Council on the Ageing Queensland, and with me today is Dr. Wendell Porter. He is our Energy for Seniors champion who will be delivering our webinar to you today. All right. Looks like most people are in. We might get started. How do you feel about that, Wendell?
Good. Let's
Excellent.
get going. Enjoy having everybody here.
Lovely. All right. Well, I might get you to start on the next slide if I could. Thank you. Council on the Ageing would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands in which we are gathering today. We would like to acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. I am on Yugambeh country, and I know that there are plenty of others joining from all across our beautiful country. A little bit about this painting that you can see here. It actually lives in our entry in our office in Brisbane, and it was painted by a local artist, and it represents the way that our elders in community can reach out and really bring us together, and can share a lot of knowledge. So it's a really beautiful painting for us, and we love it, and it's pride of place in our office. So if you're ever in Brisbane, you can come and see it in person. I will just let you know a little bit about Council on the Ageing. So Council on the Ageing is a for-purpose registered charity. We're committed to advancing the rights and needs, interests and futures of people as we age, and we've been around since 1957. Our vision is that ageing in Queensland is a time of possibility, opportunity and influence. We recognise the impact of systemic inequalities, disadvantage and discrimination on some Queenslanders as we age, and we're committed to speaking out on these issues to achieve our vision. We work with older people, community organisations, service providers, peak agencies, researchers, governments at all levels, and coders all around Australia to inform, advocate and influence. We advocate through memberships of advisory committees, public statements, submissions and support programs from other organisations that also align with our objectives. We also have a vision of an equitable transition to a clean energy future, ensuring that older residents are not left behind in that transition. We know a lot of people are experiencing cost of living pressures and energy related expenses that make up a significant portion of that regular household expenditure. To try and combat this, Council on the Ageing, in partnership with the Association of Residents of Queensland Retirement Villages, also known as ARQRV, are delivering this statewide program, which is called Energy for Seniors. It's delivered by local people all across Queensland, in person and of course online, and the program utilises volunteers, which we call energy champions, as they are champions, to enact face-to-face with older Queenslanders. We are using a survey to help us with this delivery. So you will would have received prior to this in your inbox a QR code and a link. The questions, they're on the screen. There's only 4 of them. I know the best way is to save energy at home. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, and all things in between. I turn off appliances when I'm not using them. I know which appliances to use the most energy when you're at home, and you can compare how much you pay for appliances and how much it costs to run. So we're trying to gauge what you may already know prior to Wendell delivering this information. At the end, you'll get a post survey with the same questions. Energy4Seniors is, that's all right, sorry, Wendell, throwing you off there, is funded by the government's Enable Grant program, and it's delivered in 4 phases. And this phase today is about energy efficiency. If I can just take another quick second of everybody's time to introduce Wendell. So Dr. Porter has retired in 2021 as a senior lecturer with the Agricultural and Biological Engineering Department of the University of Florida. He started there excuse me for muddling my words. He started there with the Extension Service and spent more than 10 years working on energy efficient home construction in hot, humid climates. Lured back into the classroom, he enrolled in a PhD program in 1991, and he earned his PhD in 2003. Congratulations. Dr. Porter spent the rest of his career at University of Florida teaching and advising students. He taught energy-related courses such as Global Sustainable Energy, which was delivered both online to students everywhere and face-to-face. He was also a faculty fellow at the Florida Climate Institute. As volunteer, in his role as a volunteer across many different aspects, Wendell's helped to organise the Community Weatherization Coalition, which is a group that platforms free energy audits for low-income families. Dr. Porter was the first president and has helped train almost all the volunteers from 2009 through to 2021. Before arriving at University of Florida, he worked in a variety of jobs, including analysis of flight and ground hardware for the International Space Station, which is incredible to me. He has a common thread of energy efficiency and renewable energy continues in his role as Energy4Seniors. He and his lovely wife have decided to move to Southeast Queensland to be nearer to their grandchildren, which they are enjoying currently. And he takes a break from spending time with his beautiful family to come and spend some time with us. So without further ado, Dr. Wendell, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Kayleen, for that introduction. Basically, if you live long enough and you get bored easily enough, you end up doing a lot of different things. But my constant thread for the last 30 years has been house construction, home energy, and in hot, humid climates. So yeah, I just traded one hot, humid climate for another hot, humid climate. But this Energy4Seniors program that we're delivering today has been broken down into 4 phases. And the first one was concessions, rebates, and supports. And the second one, which we're delivering today, is all about energy efficiency. And there's 2 more coming soon, smart meters, tariffs and bills, and new tariffs and energy plans. So that'll be a kind of a future thing we look for. The bigger question is, why does energy efficiency matter? What is it about energy efficiency that's important? Well, one of the things I like to point out is the cheapest energy is the energy we don't use. And
True.
what better thing to use is an iconic picture of an incandescent light bulb, which some people would say is basically a heating device that gives off a little bit of light. And as it gets more efficient, you realize that what I thought I was buying was a lighting source, and what I actually got was a heating source. And now we are several revolutions later, and we're using mostly LED lights, and those give off a lot of light and very little heat. So as a lighting device, they're getting much, much better. So that's the whole thing about energy efficiency and energy conservation. Energy conservation is basically doing without. It'd be like taking a shorter shower, but putting in a better shower rose that was more efficient in water use. That would be energy efficiency or water efficiency. So there's a differentiation there that we need to keep track of. Before I get farther, because I could talk about energy efficiency and energy conservation until everybody's bored. It's sort of endless with me. But it's key that we understand, especially for our population, and trust me, I'm with the senior part. It's important for older people not to ration their use of energy to the detriment of their health and well-being, including social interaction. So here's a point where we sacrifice our comfort and we don't run our air conditioner, we don't take showers, we don't do all sorts of things around our house that we need to do because we have to save money with our utility bill so we can afford our groceries or our medicines. So that would be an unintended consequence of energy conservation. We don't want to suffer for our goals on having a well run household and a comfortable household. So that's something we need to keep an eye on. And that's our goal, not to be suffering for this. Hold on, I've lost, this, the whole thing about seniors is they can't see anything. Well, I can't see my mouse on my screen. So that's something we have to watch out for when you get this one. I love because it shows us all about averages. This is for all of Queensland. The percentages we use for our utilities in our households in Queensland. Well, where do most of the people live in Queensland? The southeastern part. Where do most of the people live in the southeastern part of Queensland? Brisbane. So we're a city population defining an entire state. In fact, I believe the biggest state in the world. And so watch out for the averages. Use this as just basically a kind of a guide on what you might want to look for in your own home. But what's just leaps out at us when we look at a percentage of our electric bill? Hot water. So hot water, 25%. Oh my gosh. I can guarantee you with a household of 4 adults and 2 kids, which are our grandkids, hot water definitely hits the mark as a high percentage in our household. So if I wanted to save energy, where would I start? Well, I'd start on the biggest actor. And what's behind that as far as a big actor? Well, there's a refrigerator and there's cooling and heating up there. Now you'd think, Nate, I'm up here in Cairns, you're not telling me I only spend 14%. No, that's an average for the whole state. So Cairns, you definitely would spend more on cooling than you would see here. But in terms of percentages, you're looking at hot water, heating, cooling, refrigeration, everything else comes in behind that. So, but before I leave this, you think of appliances. Your refrigerator is an appliance, your water heater is an appliance, your TV, your stove, other appliances like microwaves, television sets. So they all roll into that in these different percentages. So there's something we need to look at kind of everywhere. Okay. So I kind of like this picture here because when it comes to saving energy, I'm saving money. So I got this lit up piggy bank there that I can put my coins in once I save them. And I sure hope those Christmas lights are LED Christmas lights because they would be energy efficient. And they'd also last a lot longer. Key thing on there. But the things we're going to talk about are water heating, room cooling, room heating, laundry, kitchen appliances, and other appliances. So we're going to kind of work through that and come up with our different ways of saving energy. So first one is water heating. And what do you think about this picture? What can you discern from this first picture? And I know I can hear you out there saying, well, it's outside. Yeah, there's a brick exterior wall there and the water heater's outside. So what does that tell you? I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a hot, humid climate, but we actually get a winter here. It gets cold. And that hot water device is in the cold climate. So it's got the extremes of temperatures there. So you want to make sure the insulation is good, or you have a new water heater that has the new, basically they have the pressure tank with the water in it, and then they put this thin sheet metal surround around it, and they fill the whole gap with high performance foam insulation. And that's what the newer ones do. And those are much, much better at insulating that. So you want to have that newer water heater with the better insulation. But then I'd also say, well, it doesn't look like there's much insulation on those copper pipes out there. So I'd want to make sure that would be insulated too. But what other ways can we save on water heating? Well, the device itself, whether we use a heat pump water heater or a solar water heater or electric or natural gas, there's vast differences on how energy is used in those different devices. But, so basically, how do I get my water hot and how do I use it are the ways to look for there. Okay, and again, lose my mouse here. So I could just go to the next slide. It's usually what I do is I talk over slides and I keep rambling on. But, here's the thing, boy, near and dear to my own heart, because I didn't do that in my last home back in Florida. I didn't monitor the hot water system. It developed a leak. And I did not notice it. I already sold the house and I was getting ready to get everything out of it, and I noticed a leak in the water tank. So again, keep an eye on that water tank and make sure you can spot any leaks that do occur. And if you have an uninsulated tank system, get it insulated. You need to do that. Different ways to bill your water heating that are cheaper. It's a controlled load economy tariff or nighttime tariff. There's two different tariffs on these water heaters, so you can actually have a different way of getting billed just for your water heating. Those of you that have solar out there can have even a different way to get a billed on that. So again, that's something we'll probably talk about on a different phase another time, but be careful how your water heater is being billed for. And make sure you check with your provider, your water system provider or your plumber before changing any settings on our water tank. There's some public health reasons for having a high water temperature setting on your water tank. We want to make sure we keep that. Okay. And now we're back down to the next slide. Sorry, I'm making sure I get to the right slide on both screens here. When replacing a water system, we just talked about get a heat pump or solar. And here's a key issue. When the appliance is old. Come on, we all know. It'll last another year. I've done it myself, and it always ends up badly. It fails right when you don't want it. Big party weekend, the entire family's there, and the water heater goes out. Nobody can take a shower. So again, when it's getting close to the end of life, plan for its replacement, and always make sure that you use all available sources and do your research early and make sure you get the most efficient device possible that you're replacing. So water heaters, you might have an old electric resistant. You might want to look at a heat pump water heater or a solar water heater as a way to reduce those costs. And here's the thing, put that water tank closest to the major use. Now that's kind of nice in our old Queenslander with the up on stumps. Literally the hot water tank is right below the kitchen, the main bathroom, and right next to the laundry. I mean, that's it. It's got one other bathroom that's far away, but 90% of the use is literally right on top of the tank. That means you don't wait so long for the water to get hot coming out of the faucet and things like that. Now, here's the thing that differentiates between efficiency and conservation. The last bullet here, install water efficient shower roses. That means you use less water to take a shower and it still feels like a good shower. That's a water and heat efficient, energy efficient shower. But then taking a cooler shower is conservation, and taking a shorter shower is conservation. Now, if you combine all of them, don't fry yourself, get an efficient shower rose, and also take a shorter shower. In fact, I just did a presentation and had one of the groups in the audience was from Energex, and they had a waterproof egg timer. So you can stick this on the inside of your shower and flip that around and give you 4 minutes. He said it cheated. An egg timer is actually 3 minutes, but for use in a shower, which is never where you're going to cook an egg. But so for use in a shower, it's about 4 minutes. So it's a perfect length for a water efficient, energy efficient shower. So again, it's kind of cool. I said, "Oh, be still my beating heart. Can I have one?" And he gave me one. So a real nice guy. So all right, now for the next slide, we're going to find it here. Room cooling. Now I get to room cooling. I got all sorts of stuff I want to look at. And this gets to how your house is cooled. A lot of houses in Australia have gone to the mini splits. They live in older houses that were never designed for a ducted system, so there's no room for the ducts. So they go with a mini split, which has got what they call the cassette inside the house on a high wall and the unit outside right next to it. These are kind of limited in the sense they cool and heat one room, or one sizable area like a kitchen dining room area that's all one room. So the nice part is you can control just the cooling in that one room with the one unit. So I don't have to worry about the whole rest of the house. So I can just make that room cold. Like in our granny flat we're living in, basically at night, you turn off the kitchen and you turn off the lounge and only turn on the bedroom, and only when you need it, which is very few nights out of the year. So by controlling that one room as you need it, you can save a lot of energy. Okay. Um, get used to and this is something I think, again, you can tell from my accent, I come from the States, so something I think the Australians do much, much better than we do, and that is living in the environment. You can tell when the breeze is going to come up here. I can tell when I should open up the house and get the heat of the day out of the house. I can tell when the breezes are going to stop, and I get cool at night and I don't need to run the air conditioning, or I know that in the morning, if I wait just a little bit, because there's no daylight savings here and the sun comes up pretty early, if I wait just a minute in the heat of or the cool of the winter, I can actually turn my heat pump, my reverse cycle aircon on in the morning when the sun's up, and use solar energy. That is, if you have solar on your house. But again, the whole idea is getting in tune with your environment and running your air conditioning or your heating system in tune with that. You can save a lot of money. Heat of the day, we all know when it comes up. Close up the house right before the heat of the day hits, and where it's still cool inside, you can keep another couple of hours cool in the house before it gets too hot that you need to turn on the air conditioner. So reduce the time you need by using ventilation and closing up your house. Try to keep your sun out of your house. So external shades, something outside the house with shades that keeps the sun from getting in. Now, if you can't, there's nothing you can do. Blackout curtains and a kind of a fortress to keep the heat out of your room. Pelmets on top of your curtains at the head of the window that kind of keep that hot air from rising past the curtain and keep everything stuffed inside your house. Keeps the room cooler as the day goes by. So there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Use a thermal fortress mentality kind of thing. So that's kind of how you would do that. Invest in a dual thermometer thermostat, or not thermostat, but dual thermometer, so I can tell what temperature is outside. So I can tell when it's hot outside and when it's cool outside. It's like, hey, I can open up, it's cool outside. I also have fans everywhere. So again, we'll get to that, but fans always good. When you're leaving, turn off the aircon and turn off the fan. Key issue with fans, people realize that fans cool a room. Actually, they don't. They cool you. They evaporate the sweat on your arms and legs and your head and make you feel cooler. But it doesn't cool the room at all. So when you leave the room, turn the fan off. And if you're not coming right back, might as well turn the aircon off too. Another way to save energy. And clean the filters. Now I'm bad about this because I don't air condition that often. I probably air condition a quarter of what everybody else does. So I figure if they tell you to clean the filters twice a year and I do a quarter of that, well, that's 2 years. Well, then I forget, and all of a sudden it's bad. So again, clean the filters and you'll get pretty good knowledge on how your filters load up, so you'll figure out how often to clean them. So it makes everything run more efficient and you're good to go. Now, room heating. What do we got there? We've got a standalone, sit in my room, radiant room heater that runs off electricity. Absolutely the most inefficient thing that you can buy in terms of cost to heat your room. But if you're rental, if you don't have another system and you're kind of stuck, they work real nice. Just make sure you use them in an efficient manner. So obviously the first thing off is wear warmer clothes. I mean, if you'd have caught me just an hour ago, here we are in end of May almost, it get kind of cool here in Ipswich where I'm at. So I had my 2-layered flannel on, but again, it warmed up a bit here, so I have just my shirt on. But once it gets cold enough, yeah, I put on several layers. Go for the layered look. A heated throw rug. My wife has this bead bag full of wheat seed that she can throw in the microwave and put in the foot of the bed at night when she goes to sleep, because she thinks when it gets below what 22, 21, you start needing a quilt. So again, she'll warm up the house with that heated bag of wheat seed. Anything you need to do. There's also fairly cheap things you can do. Seal gaps around the doors and windows. There's a bunch of, you can go to Bunnings or any of your hardware stores, and they have a whole aisle full of things to seal up your doors and windows. And they're fairly cheap. Start with one of your out-of-way doors or one of your out-of-the-way windows first, because it's like pancakes. It's practice pancakes, the first one you throw out. So the first one might be a little dodgy, a little hard, and didn't give you the look you were looking for. But get a little bit of practice in, and you can cut out. I mean, the houses are so leaky that you could probably cut out 25% of your heat loss in your house, making your house quite a bit more comfortable and quite a bit cheaper to heat and cool. So again, start sealing up those holes. So windows, curtains and blinds, bubble wraps. I've seen people put bubble wrap on windows in the winter, or aluminum foil to reflect the heat back inside. So there's a bunch of things you can do to get to that point. All right, sorry, I'll get to the next slide. And heating tips 2. And make sure any cooling vents, like if you have a permanent vent or a whirlybird or anything, close that. We have a bathroom that has one of those vent windows that you never can close because they don't have a vent fan in the bathroom. All well and good. It gets about this time of year, and I cut a little square of plastic and I duct tape the hole closed for about 3 months, and then I open it up again. So only heat the required areas of the house. If you're not using them, don't heat them. And if you have a reverse cycle aircon or heat pump, is what they're also called, heating between 18 degrees C and 20 degrees C is probably the most efficient way to heat. Again, the lower end of that, you're probably saving, another way to put it, every degree past 20 degrees C, like 21 degrees C, costs you about 10% more in your heating costs. So work it the other way. If you can deal with 17% or 17 degrees, you're saving 30% rather than having it on 20. So set it where you need to. Again, as we get older, we don't withstand the heat and cold as much as when we were younger. So please, first thing is you want to be comfortable, but put the layers on first and then set it where you need to set it. Easy question is, how much insulation do you have in your roof cavity? Right up above your head. The answer is probably little to none. It would be one of the first medium scale fix-it things you would do on your house is add insulation in your roof space. So when we get to things we would need to do is add insulation. Don't worry so much about the walls. Your biggest heat loss is in your roof space. Now, your ceiling fans, some of them have a winter mode and a summer mode because hot air rises and it gets close to your ceiling. So again, a ceiling fan set on a winter mode will push that hot air down. Now, in summer mode, it's pulling the cold air past you and rising it to the hot part of the ceiling. So it's set to blow the air in a different direction. So again, if your fan has a little switch up by the top, that's what that's for, summer and winter heating mode. So make sure we use that to make everything as happy as possible in our house. Okay, this is the first slide on laundry. I like that because the basket shows everything mixed together by color. When I taught at the university, we had a lot of kids leaving home for the first time, especially young males. it's like I'd tell them how to run a laundromat, and tell them you're never going to sort clothes, so always run your wash on cold water. It's also the most energy efficient thing to do. Buy a laundry soap that's good for cold water and do your clothes in cold water. Because about 80% of the energy it takes to run your laundry is just the energy it takes to heat it up, heat the water up. So again, that's the thing you really want to watch out for is where is the energy being spent in our laundry? It's being spent heating up the water. So again, use cold water wash. Make sure the laundry is full. When you put the laundry in your washing machine, make sure it's full. Now, again, back to my young males, don't stand on it to pack it in or kick it in or use a 2x4 to cram it in until it looks like a dense pack or a structural item. Your clothes won't get clean. It needs to be full but not overfull. If you're geeky enough to have a scale, you can actually weigh your dirty clothes before they're wet and say, yeah, 8 kilograms is what this one takes, and I just weighed in 8 kilograms. So again, make sure it's full but not overfull. We use the sun to dry all our clothes here. We have not bought a dryer yet. If you're in far north Queensland, though, it's something you have to use. You can pre-dry a lot. You can hang them up and run a fan on while you're drying your clothes to at least not dripping, and then stuff them into the dryer at the last minute to get that last bit of washing out, even in the most humid, as long as it's underneath a cover so it's not getting rained on. You can actually do quite a bit of the drying when it's inclement weather. I know we've had to because we don't even have a dryer. Now, the last bullet I just put on there to make sure everybody was paying attention. I can hear you laughing, like who irons clothes? And only time I see anybody in this household iron clothes is with my wife sews, and she made the shirt I have I'm wearing right now. And when you set the collar and stuff, you iron that in. And that's the only time we see an iron out at this household. So yeah, yeah, no ironing here. For those of you that have to iron, just try to do it as energy efficient as possible. Now, kitchen appliances. I don't know about you, but I got all sorts of kitchen appliances. And kind of the way to think about that is that in a lot of cases, the smaller is better. But not every case. Like think about refrigerators. Refrigerators, new refrigerators now are much, much more efficient, maybe 3 to 5 times as efficient as a refrigerator built 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's not even close. So, and you have an old refrigerator when you have an old refrigerator. If you have an old refrigerator, if you should think about replacing it. And again, if it's old enough to be close to the end of life, you can plan on what you need to do before it actually fails. Buy your most energy efficient refrigerator. We'll go into the energy rating labels a little bit in a few more slides. But here's what a lot of people do that you shouldn't do. What do you do when you buy a new refrigerator and put it in a house? Well, you take the old one, you put downstairs or in the carport, and you put 1 6-pack of soda or cold adult beverages in there, and because I need the extra space. Well, you've just replaced it because it's an energy pig and it's old and you still use it. Your bill is going to go up instead of down. So throw that away. Let the people that deliver the refrigerators take it off with them, or find somebody who will come pick it up and get rid of it. Stop using it. It's out of date and should be replaced by a new one. And so get the size refrigerator you need for all your uses. Dishwashers, the same thing. Get the size you need, and get the most energy and most water efficient dishwasher you can buy. When you have an appliance that fails, really stretch out as much as possible. And don't go bankrupt for it. Don't take my words literally, but try to get the most efficient, both in water and energy, that you can afford. Because time marches on. 10 years goes by and you still have that same dishwasher. Well, the market's moved on and they've gone to the next level of efficiency. And now yours is pretty good, but not as good as we could get. So always stretch that as much as possible. And this is for your desk, your benchtop ovens, your air fryers, all these things that you would have on your countertop in your kitchen. Make sure you get the most energy efficient ones possible. I think I probably just talked over the next 3 slides. Yeah, exactly. I get ranting and raving. Here's the one down here, the third bullet. You have seals on your oven, your fridge, your freezer. All of them can be damaged. All of them can get worn. All of them are pretty straightforward to replace. You can get the serial number off your refrigerator and oven. You can order new seals for that, and you can go on YouTube. Oh, bless YouTube. You can go on all the YouTube videos and replace these things and make them quite a bit more efficient. But there's nothing like when they get old enough, and you can look online at what's the lifetime for different household appliances and act accordingly. And here's the thing, and this is like, I swear in a previous life, my wife probably was a champion playing the game Tetris, you know, where you stack the blocks and all that kind of stuff. Because, wow, when she gets to loading a dishwasher, it's a work of art. It's full. It is absolutely full. So again, if you're going to run it, make sure it's full. Same with the laundry, make sure they're full. And there's lots of different ways. Air dry, you can turn the heat off. You can pull the racks open when it's done and let it dry in free air to save a little bit of energy. So there's lots of different ways to get around the energy use there. Okay, I had one of my students that said that what he did when I gave him a homework assignment of trying to figure out how many loads they had in the house that they weren't aware of was, you know, take a chair and sit in the middle of the room that can see your entertainment center, your kitchen, your TV area, see as much of your house as possible, and turn out all the lights at night. And then you can see all the little blue and amber and green dots on things that are on that you thought were off. They're fucking power and they're not doing a thing for you. You can turn those out at your PowerPoint. You can turn those off. Again, the ones in the kitchen are up by the bench top, so those are easy to reach, but the rest of your house, they might be down close to the floor and hard to reach. Well, I put power boards on those, and the switch on the power board I put where I can easily reach it so I can turn it off there. I think wonderful thoughts about my utility bill when I switch the thing off at night. So again, use all these other more efficient devices first rather than an oven. I only use the oven if it's a big dinner and it's a big item that you need to cook, you know, or cooking 4 loaves of bread at once. So you only have to cook and heat up the kitchen once. And here's one that is hard to remember, the last bullet. Only put as much water as you need in the kettle. Don't fill it up every time you heat it up. You're heating up all the water, you're not using it. So again, I have to admit, I don't always remember that one. Now, other appliances. We got all sorts of other things sitting in our house. I like the universal symbol for a battery under charging for one of our things. So what else do we have? Appliances on standby. Wow, I don't know if we talk about, I forget where we mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it right here. You have a really efficient television set, like an OLED organic light emitting diode television set, the most advanced energy efficient television set out there. And you only watch 1 or 2 hours of TV a day. That means you don't have teenagers at the house anymore, or even any other generation. So if you only watch 1 or 2 hours a day, the odds are your TV set costs you more when it's off than it does when it's on. Yeah. It's like, how is that possible? Because it's got an instant on feature. It thinks that sitcom that you used to watch, 20 years ago that you can get on one of the channels and watch old episodes on, it thinks you want to watch that instantaneously when you come home from work and you want to relax and turn the telly on to watch one thing, and you can't stand waiting. And so it's instant on. It sucks power all the time. Well, give yourself a minute to take a breath and put your stuff down. Hit your power board that energizes your television up and let it come to terms with its life. Let it find itself like a teenager and come back on and find the network, and off you go. But again, just be recognizing that those instant on features they suck power all the time. Now, hold the horn here. Do not do that with your router or your modem. Leave those on. That's one thing. And the newer ones have gotten much, much more energy efficient so that they don't cost too much on your bill. You can actually manage your computers to go on sleep mode. I basically turn mine off when I'm at sleep or not using them. So I need to be better at that top bullet. Install energy efficient light bulbs. I've replaced every light bulb that I can reach at the house so far. And we have two, I believe. We have two fluorescent tube lights yet that we're going to replace with LED lights, and then that'll be it. Every light in the house will be LEDs. They consume about 85% less energy. I did a quick calculation. 80% is a good round number, but it's more like 85%. And they might actually last 20 times longer, but 5 to 10 is suitably large enough difference that you might as well move on to the new age of lighting. Newer lights, newer LED lights, also, especially your lights in the ceiling, have color switches on. So you can have the whiter ones or the more warm color ones. You can have 3 choices on the color of your light. So solar lights, don't plug them into the network or the circuit and actually cause you a bunch of changes to your electricity and put light fixtures up there. Just put solar lights. Or solar lights attached to an occupancy sensor, not occupancy sensor, but a movement sensor, so that you can actually, they only come on when you're coming up the stairs. If you do have a pool, make sure you get an efficient pool pump and put it on an economy tariff. All right, here's my favorite. That's energyrating.gov.au. Again, these energy ratings, industry has moved so far and so fast that the rating symbol on the left with 6 stars has been superseded by the rating symbol on the right with 10 stars. So again, buy with the most stars. Look for the stars. Shoot for the stars. And again, we have them for water also, and that would be for a dishwasher that uses both energy and water. Make sure, and a clothes washer also have water labels. So make sure you look at both labels for those 2 items. And it's actually a really good site, world class, I would say. You can look up by serial number, you can look up by brand, you can look up which way your old one did, not all the time, because by golly, some of our stuff really gets old. But you can do a really good comparison by looking up this website, energyrating.au.gov. So the little numbers in the block there tells you how many kilowatt hours you use in a year. So you can actually look at your bill and find out how much energy costs at your house, and you can see the number they have there, so many kilowatt hours for each device, and figure out how much it would cost you. So you can actually go and search between the different items that you're looking for and find the one that costs the least that will do the job. So it's a good way to estimate costs and a good way to do shopping. So there's a good explanation right there. It'll give you the kilowatt hours on the rating, and then hours per year. Kilowatt hours per year is what they'll tell you, and then the cents per kilowatt hour, multiply that, and got the cost right there. So that's good. Again, knowing the cost of your energy, this, I think it's 18 kilometers per dollar of electricity if you have an electric car. But if you charge your electric car with solar energy coming off your roof, it's about 150 kilometers per dollar's worth of electricity. So again, there's a lot of changes coming down the road at us that will make these costs change even more. Again, what's the 15 minutes, $1 will pay for 15 minutes of a shower. So if you take 4-minute showers, you can almost get 4 showers out of $1 rather than a wasteful 15-minute shower. And then we all have teenagers that will sit in there for a half hour, and you're like, you can just watch the meter spinning, and you might as well just throw dollar bills out into the breeze. So again, trying to get our and sometimes it works. I mean, sometimes you do have that conversation and do show them that, and then they get on with it, because sooner or later they're going to be paying their own utility bills, and they'll wish they knew these answers. One of the things you can do is complete your own household energy audit. And most of your energy providers have online audits. Quite a few of the local libraries have energy audit kits that you can check out at the library. So there's ways that you can walk through your own house and see what you're using everywhere. Try to spot, I actually went through my house back in the States and counted up every light. And this is before I changed everything, but in the original house, before I upgraded the lighting, I had 56 different light bulbs in the house.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them were horrendous energy sucks. It was terrible. So again, you can't change anything until you know what you're looking at. So again, walk through your house, find out everything that's plugged in, everything that's using energy. And sometimes you'll just all of a sudden, how long has this been on doing nothing? And again, these are the things you want to find, because those are easy changes to save energy. I like this sheet. This is in our online material, and also I think we're sending out copies of it. Kayleen will give us a heads up on that, where we can find that. But this tells you what each of these items uses, how long they use it, and it's like, you look at your kettle. Our kettle is like, I believe, 1.8 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts. You think, oh my gosh, that's a bunch of energy. But how long does the kettle come on for? 2 minutes? So you don't use it very long. But now, loafing along at low load, my energy efficient aircon that's a mini split might be only pulling 200 watts, but it might pull at 200 watts for 8 hours.
You're right.
So again, that's the way to look at it, where you look at the peak energy and how long it operates, to get a good feel on what does my bill look like. The library kits that you can check out, many of them have an energy monitor, a power monitor that you can plug in. And what you want to do is get an extension cord first and plug the extension cord into a power point, by the floor, and then use that extension cord to check different items, my fan, your computer, the television, a floor heater, and then you can put that monitor in there, and it will tell you how much you use it. So a great way to figure out the differences of energy use for different things in your house. So again, I had several of those back in the States, but they plugged into a 110 outlet rather than 220. So I need to buy my Australian version here and get with the ticket. So again, my apologies for not doing that. In the midst of all these things, we are slowly but surely moving away from gas. Now, nobody's taking your gas stove away from you, but there's some compelling reasons why you should think about this. One of the things is that your new cooktop, your induction cooktop, is quite a bit more energy efficient than anything that came before, and also more energy efficient than gas. And so you can save money there. And there's also a kind of a hidden thing in here. When you buy your electricity from the grid, you pay for your energy use, but you also pay for having that meter at your house. It's a customer charge, meter charge, customer charge, about $36 a month, I think, where I'm at. Well, the same with your gas. Now, if the previous owners of the house have disconnected the water heater and now they run the water heater off a heat pump water heater or an electric water heater or whatever, and you're only down to using gas for just one or two things, you're paying $30 a month before you use anything just to have the gas there. So if you get rid of gas, you get rid of that meter charge, and you save a small little bundle there. And again, by replacing it to new devices that are more efficient, you'll save money also. Burning natural gas in your home does let off a several pollutants, one of which is a pretty good trigger for asthma. And of all the first highly developed nations on the planet, Australia has one of the highest rates for asthma. So again, getting rid of a trigger in your house for that would be a good idea to go. But again, there's different ways to get about changing from gas to electric. When I just talked through most of that, in fact, I think I did cover all of that. And we did. That's the first thing we did in the house. Mainly right off the bat, one of the gas line was leaking a little bit. So every time you turned on it to cook something, you could smell a little bit of gas. So I had to turn it off between uses. It got to be kind of an irritation. So that was the first thing we replaced. Put a induction cooktop in the kids' side of the house. And when we redid our kitchen, we put an induction cooktop on our side. And I'll tell you, it will boil water in a pan as fast as your kettle. So very often we don't preheat water with a kettle when we're boiling water for pasta or something like that. So it's just unbelievable. And we also bought an air fryer. So a lot of times we don't even need a stove. And your gas water heater, you can use a heat pump water heater or solar heated water. So again, you're heating up your house. We've had reverse cycle air conditioning. So you have a lot of new things out here that can get rid of the use of natural gas, and it's more efficient and it costs less. So a lot of reasons to do that. So now you can go back through all the stuff I've said. You can say, well, can I answer that question a little bit better? I know the best ways to save energy at home. I will turn off appliances when I'm not using them, even the ones I didn't know were on. So that's another thing to think about. And I know which appliances use the most energy at home. Well, we can differentiate the fact that I know the ones that use the most instantaneously, but I have to walk through my house and figure out how often I use them to figure out how much energy they use all the time. So I now have the knowledge I can differentiate that. And that plays a big part in our march forward to be a more energy efficient, cost efficient household. And I can compare how much I pay for an appliance with how much it costs to run. That's that energy.gov website. That's exactly what you're looking for, because most of those are real-time databases, and you can see the purchase price right there and see the difference. So I can look at how much it costs to run them and say, well, this one I can save $100 a year on how much it runs, and it only costs $200 more to buy. The payback is 2 years. Well, I got to wait 2 years to get my money back? No, you're thinking about that wrong. With a 2-year payback, that's a 50% rate of return. Boy, if I got 50% rate of return on the money I put in the bank, holy cow, yeah, we'd be doing good. So again, that's a very useful way to use that energyrating.gov.au website. So that gets down to our takeaway messages, and that is, use the energy you need to sustain health and well-being. First of all, we have to be comfortable, not over comfortable. I used to over air condition. My poor wife was frozen, so I acclimatized myself over the period of 3 air conditioning seasons to be comfortable at warmer temperatures. And I am, and it's much cheaper. I mean, if I'm going to be the energy guru and an energy doc, at least ought to practice what I preach, and I'm much more comfortable now, and thankful that I went through that 3-year acclimatization process. You can do that and conserve energy when it makes sense to do so. Those are the things that you want to do, and make sure, again, receiving all the rebates, concessions, and supports you may be entitled to, again, as seniors. And that's our presentation. If we have time, we can answer some questions. I'll give it back to Kayleen.
I think you just delivered the most amazing. We did get one question that came through before, but I thought I'd just let you finish your thoughts.
Yeah.
It just says that this information is very detailed and wonderful. What would be your top 3 energy tips? So I guess if you were just, if
Yeah,
somebody was in you in the street and said, "What's your top three?" What
right.
what would they be, do you think?
Yeah, well, I live in the world of complete energy nerd. And, a lot of the press and stuff focuses on what you'd say call the shiny things. You know, what's in the news right now, the national battery plan,
Yeah,
solar energy, EVs, everything. No, 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 no. Those are our end journey. Where do I start?
yeah,
What would I do? First thing, fix the holes in my house.
yeah,
We have a joke in the States called Larry the Cable Guy. Everybody that came in your house drilled a hole somewhere and they never fill them up again. So you've got holes in the floors, and it gets cold and drafty, and that air blows in. You've got one window that doesn't seat right, and I'll just close it as well as I can. I've got gaps underneath the doors. I've got the equivalent of probably that much of a hole in my house. Would you leave a window open on the coldest day of the year that much? No, of
yeah,
course not. So slowly but surely fix the holes in your house. Next thing I do is try to figure out some way to shade that western side of my house that's got all the windows in it that it just bakes in the sunlight in the summer.
yeah,
External shades are better. If you're a homeowner and have the time, you're going to be there a while, plant a tree or a shrub, external sailcloth, anything. If you can't, if you're a renter, then blinds inside the house, anything to get that hot sun out of your house. Um, these are the kind of things that you look at. And ventilation. I lived in the center of the top part of the state of Florida and in something we call the swamp. And it didn't have any breeze. You're never going to have wind power there. You had either 2 miles an hour or a hurricane or a cyclone. So you
wow,
didn't have anything in between. Here you've got nice breezes a lot of times, and you can bank on them. And you know exactly when they're going to come up, and so bank on those ventilation breezes. Open the place up, get all that hot air out of the house, and really pay attention to that environment. And the next morning, it's been cool all night. You didn't have to run the air conditioning. The next morning, leave everything open until things are starting to heat up, and then close it on down again, so you can keep that hot air out and the cold air in for as long as possible. And the
mm,
last thing, it's probably more than three. The last thing are appliances. Always have a plan on when that appliance fails, or plan on
mm,
replacing it when you've just had a bonus at your pay at your place of work, and you know that one appliance is 20 years old. So make sure you plan ahead, get the most energy efficient one, place it in the best place to be placed, and watch those savings roll in as you do that. So that long-term plan on appliances is really key for your journey.
yeah. And the appliances, as you mentioned before, make such a big difference, and particularly now with the new rating systems.
Yep.
So, if you can afford to replace them, when you can
Yeah.
afford to replace them, that's a excellent
Yeah.
piece of advice that I personally have taken on board. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you again for all of your knowledge and your time. I really appreciate it, and I know that everyone else that has attended does as well. At the end of the webinar, I will send a recording of this out to everybody, as well as the handouts that Wendell has mentioned. And that will have my details direct. So if you do think of any questions, or you're going through some of the handouts and you think, oh, it would be really nice to get some more information about this, or where can I go to find out about X, Y, and Z, please just flick me an email, and I will either gather that information myself, or I will pass it on to lovely Wendell, who is a wealth of knowledge, and we'll be able to pass that information on to you. So thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you for your time, Wendell. We appreciate you.
Yeah. And thank
Um,
you. Have a good
have a
day, everybody.
wonderful afternoon.
Yeah.